So this video is the real-time video that I sped up. I cut 8 hours down to about almost 18 minutes. So I did the first pass there and I straightened up the marks, and then I'm laying down the second part of the pattern. So everything you're seeing here, even though it's terrible color choices on the yellow blank, these are the layout threads. So every time I get one actually set and laid out, I'm taking the time to check on the axis that everything's lined up on my axis mark and also the center points that I measured. And then I'll continue to build a wrap off of there. Reason being is because that's the bones of the wrap. You need to make sure they're correct. The pattern that I'm working on is actually an N- without plus, and also a diamond added to the pattern. Those particular patterns, the ins and outs and ins, can be found in Billy Vavona's Decorative Wraps book. If you don't have it, you can get it at threadcentral.net. But those patterns in particular are some of my favorites because the patterns, like the wraps themselves, actually close faster. In this situation, I'm still wrapping the second part of the layout. I am wrapping the N- section. So I'm starting with knowing I'm doing 8 passes. So I'm putting down 8 threads for the layout. The outside of that, which starts at the exact same spot that the first thread of the N- was laid down, is the out plus, and that will be just a single thread because it's just one thread. Once I get all 8 of those threads on there, I'm actually going to pack because that's a lot of threads to put down and to leave it as is. So I like to pack going up one single side of the axis all the way from the butt to the tip. And I'm having to double check to make sure that I am not pushing those initial threads that we put down during the layout off of the original marks. So this is just my preferred way to pack. I've had the best results doing it like this. And I want to go ahead and say that I'm really sorry about the lighting during this video. I did not realize that it was so dark until I was going back and editing it, and you know, I can't wrap it again. I've already wrapped it, so it was kind of like, ugh, alright. So starting here where I pick up wrapping, I'm wrapping the out plus side. So but since this is technically the layout, I'm only doing one thread, and then I'm coming back and I'm putting the diamond in between the open space that's left on the blank. So now I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to move and make sure everything is still lined up, and we're going to move on to pass 2. Like I said, this video, I had to speed it up insanely fast in order for you guys to be able to, you know, somewhat pay attention during this, because this is kind of boring watching this happen, but at the same time it's kind of mesmerizing. So it's one of those things where it's like you really try to get it as short as possible, but there's only so much you can do with it before it becomes too fast, and then it's like, I don't even know why I'm watching this. Once again, you know, second pass, I'm putting 7 threads down this time because I subtract one every single time that I move from one pass to another, and you know, it just takes a while, but at the same time the wrap is filling up pretty quick. And after each pass, I will only pack the red section, which is the N-, simply because that's the only one that has more than 5 threads down. I don't pack before I have 5 threads in place. So pass 4 signifies that we're halfway through the pattern. We're not technically halfway through the wrap because there's like 4 to 8 extra threads that are added at the close in my particular wrap. So it's not quite halfway, but we spaced it for 8 passes and we're at 4 passes now, so it is technically halfway through the pattern, not necessarily the wrap. But here, so what I did was I wrapped my 5th thread of the inside, which is yellow. It's very hard to see. And then I wrapped a few passes of the red and I stopped and I packed the yellow because at that point I had something that was holding it in place. And I continued to keep wrapping after I was happy with how it looked. The colors that I used in this wrap are terrible because they don't stand out against the wrapper itself, but the end result is definitely what I wanted. So I apologize, it's very hard to see the actual thread whenever I'm wrapping up and down the blank. I mean, the basic rules of wraps is just, try to wait until you have at least 5 threads in place before you pack. If you pack previous to that, it's just going to be a pain in the butt and it's not going to stay in place. There's not enough tension to hold it. And just, keep at it. Packing is what's going to take you the most time. Wrapping is not going to take you as long. But if you pack it well and keep up with it throughout the wrap, you'll be able to do it rather quickly, even though while you're in the moment doing it, it feels like it's taking forever. Because packing the insides of this and trying to keep it super tight and also packing out the red section as well in order to fit 2 or 3 more threads, that's pretty tight quarters and it's really aggravating. But for the diamond, there's not a whole lot going on, so I just kind of use my fingernails to push it towards each other. Now we're in pass 6, so we have 2 passes left before we're finished with the pattern. So we've got our yellow box in, and then we've got our whatever red shade that we're at for the N minus. Pass 7, so we have only just a single thread after this pass for the inside for both sections. And sometimes you just gotta stop, hold that thread in place, and just pack it however you need to so you have enough room. If you keep it clean, it's easier to pack. If you start overlapping threads, then it's really difficult to get them off of each other, and it's just not as clean at the end. It's not a big deal to stop, hold the thread tension with your finger. I mean, you got to push down, you've got to hold it in place, but move the thread to the side and fit it in. And you do that because you want to keep it from bleeding. I use Madeira thread, so that thread is notorious for being able to be see-through if you don't get enough thread packed in place, or you don't pack it as tight as it should be. So I always try to fit in 1 or 2 threads more to make sure that I have less bleed and I can maneuver the seams to be completely straight, and I don't have to worry about gaps or sections that look a little too thin or spread out a little bit more than other sections, however the wrap packed. But you know, whenever you're getting close to the end, as long as your open spaces, like places where you can see the blank on whatever axes, however many you have, the open spaces, if they were equal in size, then it'll be easier to close. If you are dealing with spaces that are unequal, then you need to adjust whatever needs to be adjusted in order to make it equal. It makes it so much easier to close a wrap when you have equal open spaces. And so that means that some sides of the wrap are going to need to be packed a little bit tighter, and other places you're not going to need to touch it as much. And that's fine. You don't need to pack everything like super duper tight. You just need to make sure that it's evenly packed so that nothing bleeds, it's straight, and you don't have any gaps. Once I've made enough room on the inside, I'm going to put down those last 2 threads that I'm trying to put in there. Just to finish kind of the design aesthetic, if you will, that I was going after. And here where it speeds up, I'm wrapping the box out from the inside pattern, so I have more space, I can move faster. At this point in the wrap, I gotta stop and make room. So I'm adjusting everything at this point, including the side seams. Some of them are pushed up, some of them are pushed down. I just kind of have to slowly move them in order to keep making room. And now this is the section where I finished the pattern that I initially wrote my pattern sheet for. And now I'm just kind of winging it as far as what I want to do for the clothes. And it takes a lot of packing at this point, just making sure everything's right. And stopping and packing every time in the last few threads to make sure that you don't have more room to put one more thread in there. And here I am straightening the wrap. So any areas that I may have pushed the threads in a little bit extra tight, I'm pulling them back out, making sure the axis lines is running straight and true to form. And that's usually where I'll start, moving from left to right. Just make sure that entire axis is straight on the top and the bottom, and then I'll move to the sides. And the sides take a lot more effort because threads are kind of squished inwards a little bit. They can move a little bit more, so you kind of have to pack them back out. And I'm also tightening up that inside diamond. Once I finish straightening everything and I'm happy with it, this is what it turned into. The lighting in this video is terrible. Absolutely terrible. But this wrap was a fun wrap. It turned out exactly how I wanted it to. And I couldn't be happier, even though it was the third. And a little bit better lighting. Here is what the wrap looks like photographed. It looks pretty good. And then that's the inspiration behind the wrap, was her. And she's actually the foregrip for this build. And I got that one tooled up and done and finished a couple days ago. So moving forward with this build, it's going to be pretty fun.